Yeah, cool. Here we are. Seaweeder Podcast number 2. Welcome, everybody. Today we have myself, Brad, and Liz from Seaperia. Just like to welcome you, Liz. Thanks very much for catching up today for a chat.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. It's really a pleasure and can't wait to get into another one.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Interruptions. Here we are. Okay. So let's start with a little bit of your background, Liz, if that's okay. And
So our company actually started, do you want the company background or my personal background?
yeah, you feel free to blend it in if you'd like,
Blended in.
because there's always
So, okay, well, I'll tell you a bit about me. So I grew up here on the Tablelands, moved away, went to college, had the big career and everything. And about 13 years ago, I decided I'd had enough of corporate life and I moved back to the Tablelands. Mum and Dad were still here, of course.
Mhm.
And I was kind of looking for something to do. I'd always wanted to have my own business, and I was really sick of making money for other people, and working hard, long hours, and not really getting the reward at the end. So I really wanted my own business, and I was kind of looking around, and I'd go and visit mum and dad on the weekends, and Dad would say to me, because he, no matter what, he has always talked about seaweed. And he would say to me, so and so rang me up the other day about the seaweed. Do you remember them? It'd be one of our old customers. And of course, the phone calls were actually becoming more. Every time I went to see them, it'd be so and so rang me up about the seaweed. And eventually I said to Dad, what are we doing, Dad? Dad was retired. Um, he'd had enough of retirement. He'd been retired for like 15 years. He'd done all the traveling and done everything that he wanted to do. And he'd just had enough of retirement. He was ready to go again. And so I said to him, what are we doing? Let's give the seaweed another shot. Because the thing about the seaweed is that Dad has been doing it for such a long time, and he has worked so hard at it, and he worked hard against all of the odds. Back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, when he was doing it back then, the organic thing and people caring about where their food came from, and all of that kind of movement just wasn't even a thing at all. And the only people that were cared about organic stuff was kind of weird hippies, and it was just
yeah,
like it had a real stigma to it.
yeah,
And of course, Dad didn't care. He just battled on. He just
yeah, yeah.
battled right on through it. And he just kept going, trying to encourage farmers to go organic, use seaweed, get away from the chemicals. Um, and so by 2013, when I had moved back to the Tablelands, and we were talking about getting the seaweed going, the thing was that it had started to become a thing. People have started to realize that chemicals in food are a really bad, stupid idea.
Great.
And farmers are looking at what's happening. And, there's so many farmers that are going regenerative. There's farmers that are realizing that maybe these chemicals are actually really bad for my family, and maybe we should really look at changing what we're doing. And people care where their food comes from, and there's so much information around these days as well, but that's why Dad was getting more phone calls.
Mm.
And so we decided to do it again and start Dad's seaweed business. Start
Yeah.
seaweed business. Yeah. So that was what we did. And we started very, very small. We just I think we threw in like $1,500 each or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we bought a couple of bags of seaweed, and I'd never built a website in my life, and chucked together a website, and away we went.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
inspirational was that? So
Yeah.
good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I am so pleased we did it. And one of the reasons that I'm so pleased is because I'm just so glad that because my dad turned 87 a couple of weeks ago, and
okay.
I'm just so pleased that even though there's a long way to go still, I'm so pleased that he's seen in his lifetime that the tide is turning, that things are changing, that people are changing, that farmers are changing their attitudes. And yeah, I'm just so happy for him that has actually happened.
Yeah. So good. Happy birthday to Grahame too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty proud of his age. He actually keeps he doesn't tell people he's 87. He tells people he's nearly 90.
Yeah. 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 No,
Yeah.
and it shows too, like, he's still doing the videos and you can still
Oh,
hear
he's
the
into it.
passion in his voice and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
whereas
he is into it. If you could see what he does every day and the amount of passion that he puts into it, it's just quite incredible. He's always been a great writer. He writes a lot.
yeah,
And he writes a lot of little articles. He writes a lot of things. People who have been seaweeders for a long time would remember when Grahame actually packed all of the orders for us, and he would put little articles in with the orders. Anything that he thought was relevant for that person, he would put it in the order.
yeah,
And he also writes a lot of emails. He writes to politicians and to people, scientists that he sees or farmers that he sees on the TV, or just all sorts of people. David Attenborough. I mean, he received a letter from David Attenborough about the seaweed, and we've got that photo of him standing there holding his letter
yeah,
from Sir David Attenborough, and he's just so proud of it and proud of the fact that he actually was interested as well.
yep,
So he's written to the royal family. He's just written to so many people. The Prime Minister, he doesn't care. He'll write to anyone. He writes letters to the editor. He writes and writes. Yeah, he's a pretty incredible person. He has an amazing brain.
yeah,
My
yeah,
dad.
yeah,
Yeah, very, very, very creative.
mm,
Because of course he is actually an artist as well.
okay,
So he actually studied art when he left school, and when they emigrated to Australia, so mum and dad are 10-pound ponds. And
yep,
when they emigrated, and when I was young, I remember him putting a suit and a tie on and going to work every day. And he worked in the city in Adelaide for Clemenger's Advertising, and he was a commercial art director, which these days you would call a graphic designer. But of
yep,
course, in
okay,
those days, it was all done by hand, because this was in the
yeah,
60s and the 70s.
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, true talent. Yeah,
Yeah, very, very creative person and very imaginative brain. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's so good that he stuck it out. Obviously people are getting the benefits of that now. So so good that
it's
he had
true.
he rode that out.
He
Yeah.
did. And he just, I don't know, he's just got this thing. He just is so focused and he just believes so much in, that organic thing. He just believes in that so much that he just would never, ever, no matter how many people said to him that he was nuts or whatever, the government trying to shut us down in the 80s, or it might have been the early 90s, the government trying to shut down the business. Like, through all of that, just absolutely focused on we need to get away from the chemicals.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's quite incredible. To me, it's quite incredible. And it's, it just shows great strength, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pure conviction, yeah. And
Yeah.
the results speak for themselves as well. So,
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you apply it to humans or plants or larger scale agriculture, you can see the difference. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Seaweed, it's just the most incredible thing, and it does really make a difference. And it was just so fortunate that Dad just kind of came across it back in in 1974, when there was no Google, or like, if you wanted to find something out, you had to go to the library. And people weren't particularly talking about seaweed, using
yeah,
seaweed on farms or anything. But it was just, so what happened was that he was actually interested in keyline farming. So
okay,
when we left Adelaide and Dad decided that he didn't want to do advertising anymore, he wanted to be a farmer.
yep,
And they sold everything. And he had read P.A. Yeoman's book, Water for Every Farm.
mm-hmm.
And he was really fascinated by that. And so when we were on the big move up to Queensland to buy a farm, he had somehow found out about these people in the Kiewa Valley, two brothers who had large farms, the Wallace brothers, and they were keyline farmers. And so we stopped in there to have a look at what they were doing and learn their methods and look at their farm and all of that stuff. And so Jeff Wallace was the one who actually introduced Dad to seaweed, because he was already using actually exactly the same seaweed that we sell. We still sell Seaperia back here
Yeah,
behind me. He was using it on his farm,
okay,
and his farm was incredible. And it just, that was what just absolutely intrigued Dad. And I think the big thing, and this story is actually on our blog.
okay,
And it's on I think it's also on or there's a link to it on our About page on our website.
mm-hmm.
But what happened was that as we were driving through the Kiewa Valley, and I remember I was only 10 years old at the time, and I remember hearing it on the radio, there was these massive locust plagues, like massive, millions and millions of insects. And I remember driving through, we had the truck and the caravan, and I remember driving through, and I remember Dad having to actually stop in the middle of this cloud of locusts and get out of the car and clean the radiator out.
Yeah.
I was starting to overheat because there were so many insects. But of course, when we got to the Wallace's farm, there were no locusts. There was locusts there, but the locusts weren't touching their farm.
Yeah,
The
wow.
neighbours were eaten to the ground, and their farms were fine.
Yeah, wow.
And it was because of the seaweed, and I think that it was just fate that there was that locust plague at that time, and it just so clearly showed what seaweed can do. And that was really what got Dad hooked in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's huge. That's huge.
It's a great story.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a great story. And of course I remember it. I was only 10, but I remember
yeah,
I remember having, there's always been seaweed. I remember seaweed around the house and in the shed, and bottles of seaweed, because Dad actually did try doing a liquid seaweed at one stage.
yeah.
Very, very, very early on.
Hmm.
I remember him having bottles of seaweed, and we used to go to the markets, and us kids would be behind the market stand,
Yeah, yeah,
little bags of seaweed, and
yeah, yeah. Got the training in early. Yeah,
way back in the day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's just like seaweed for our family. It's always been there. It's just always been there. It's just like it's part of our DNA now.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, obviously, you guys have experienced all the benefits from using these particular types of seaweed, and you want to share that with the world. So and have others get the benefit as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it does, it just does do so much. It is amazing for animals and plants and people. And we've seen that, over decades and decades. We've just seen it over and over and over and over again.
yeah,
Um, just what it can do. And it is quite incredible. And it's incredible that it does it. It's kind of a blanket for all living things. It
yeah,
works on all living things. Anything that has cells, it works on cells, and it makes cells stronger, and it just makes things healthier. It just works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, nature's multivitamin, so to speak.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is incredibly packed. It is, it has at least 144 different nutrients in it, seaweed.
Wow.
Um, and that is the measurable ones. And, there are probably lots more that are actually not measurable, or they're just too small and they can't be bothered at the lab
Yeah,
measuring
yeah,
it.
yeah,
But that's just it's just an incredible thing, and it's different to land plants, because land plants only have the nutrition that's in the soil exactly where they are growing,
hmm, yep,
whereas seaweed in the ocean, um, it's just surrounded by nutrients, especially the seaweed that comes from the Northern Hemisphere, where we get all of our seaweeds from.
yep, yep,
Yeah.
yeah. Very interesting. So yeah, if you'd like to expand, Liz, on like you say, the different varieties, and say what would be
Yeah.
the difference between um Northern Hemisphere seaweeds compared to, say, Asia or Australia. Yeah, if you'd like
Yeah.
to share some more on that.
Okay. So there is something very special about North Atlantic seaweeds, and Northern Hemisphere seaweeds. The thing, what it comes down to really is not that the ocean up there is particularly different from the Southern Ocean. It's just that the Southern Ocean doesn't actually have land.
Okay. Yep.
So there's no land for the seaweed, because seaweed grows on the bottom of the ocean, on the rocks. It fastens itself so it needs land to actually grow on under the ocean. And the Southern Ocean, there just isn't any land there. I know
Okay.
it sounds very strange, but if you
Yeah.
think about it, and I wish I had a like a little map or a globe to show you.
Yeah.
So really, when you look at our planet, all
Yeah.
of the all of the land masses are very much on one side. The Pacific Ocean almost takes up half of the planet,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
then they're also very much to the north. So, um, so around the North Pole, there is a lot of land. There's, Norway, all of those northern European countries and North America and northern um, Asia.
Mm.
All of those countries are close to or just about at the North Pole. Whereas the distance from the South Pole to the first bit of land, which is actually South America,
Mm.
the southern tip of South America, it's a heck of a long way. And we
Mm.
think of, in Australia, we think of Tasmania as being freezing cold, especially me up here in North Queensland. To me, Tasmania is just like absolutely freezing. Um,
Yeah.
but compared to places like that, Tasmania is really warm. And
Okay.
it's a long way north compared to those European countries south.
Yeah.
So Tasmania is actually a very, very long way north, away from the South Pole.
Mm-hmm.
So even though um, we do have some great seaweed in southern Australia,
Okay.
um, we just don't have the quantities or the particular types of really beneficial seaweeds that they do in the northern countries.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so the other thing with this is that the oceans around the poles are particularly thick with nutrition and life. And I know that also sounds a little bit crazy, but when you think about it, you've got like the North Pole and the South Pole. Um, there's no vegetation there. It's just snow. It is the ocean that sustains everything in
Yeah.
those places.
Yeah.
And yet, some of the largest animals in the world live there. Giant whales live there, polar bears, mooses and elks and penguins that are, really big penguins, not the little fairy penguins that we have here in Australia, but giant emperor penguins. And it's the ocean that sustains all these animals. And the reason that it does that is because the ocean, just because it is near the poles,
Yeah.
the ocean is concentrated. The minerals in the ocean are concentrated, and so the entire food chain is just full of things, starting from tiny little krill,
Yeah.
um, which there are absolutely clouds of them in the
Mhm.
ocean, up to the big animals. So
Yeah.
it's so that's so it's just that combination of there's land to grow on, and the sea is particularly nutrient and mineral dense, and that is
Mhm.
what grows the incredible seaweeds. Actually, there is one more thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one more thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the other thing, and the thing, so the difference with Ascophyllum when you compare it to an Australian seaweed such as bull kelp, Ascophyllum grows fairly close to the shore,
Yeah.
and it is subject to tides.
Okay.
So when the tide goes out, the seaweed is actually up out of the water. It's hanging off the rocks, and it
Yeah.
is just sitting there out in the dry sun, baking away. And then the tide turns, and this freezing cold Arctic water comes in and covers it up. And it's, that is incredibly harsh conditions for something to live in. And so scientists actually believe that it's these harsh conditions that make the seaweed produce some of the particular and unique substances that it produces that are so good for health. Yeah.
Yep. I've heard something very similar with like your desert plants, cactus and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, the same principle.
Same principle.
Yeah, where the
That's
plants
true.
are over time have been forced and adapted to live in those conditions. So they haven't had everything handed to them as such. It's
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and they have to produce their own little goodies to survive that can help them survive. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very important to note as well that outside contamination and things in other parts of the world, that's a real problem. So metals, plastics, yeah, that's a concern that's on my radar too.
Yeah, it is. It's very sad. That some parts of our oceans are so polluted. The thing with, like, you kind of think of the ocean as one big mass of water, but actually the oceans are very much divided by their currents. And
Yep.
so, water that's in the Atlantic Ocean doesn't necessarily end up in the Pacific, and and then the Pacific itself is divided into like separate little seas, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so pollution is not an issue everywhere. And if you're careful where you get your seaweed from, then you can get some excellent seaweed. But you do need to be fussy where it comes from, and probably the place that you need to be the most wary of are the Asian countries, unfortunately, and it's because of just the pollution and things like the Fukushima nuclear disaster, and they've got a lot going on.
Yeah, sure. Especially when we're looking at using seaweed with the iodine component to help thyroid issues. Yeah, and try and clear out radiation out of those areas that are built up in the body.
Yeah.
If we bring in a seaweed that's already got radiation in it, there we're chasing our tail. We're undoing the work we're trying to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that seaweed, seaweed cleanses our body. It also cleanses the ocean. So if there is radiation, if you're buying seaweed from some of the Asian countries, then that seaweed has been mopping up radiation and chemicals, and that's part of its job in the whole environment. That's part of its job on our planet, is to keep the planet clean, and that's what it does. Yeah. So you have to be fussy. You have to be fussy with where your seaweed comes from.
Yeah, sure do. So, moving right along, what about some stories that your customers have experienced? Be it their own health or their animals, or say the veggie garden or their farm. Just some of the stories that you've seen a huge turnaround or a huge improvement from using these seaweeds.
Let me think. There are a few in particular that Grahame talks about. There is one that he talks about because he actually went there. So this was a potato farmer. It would have been back in the 90s. He was a potato farmer in South Australia. So he had one of those potato farms where they grow in round paddocks, big central pivot irrigator. And this fellow did a couple of sprays of Seaperia on his potatoes.
Yep.
And got an amazing crop. Potatoes love Seaperia.
Okay.
It just does incredible things for potatoes. But the thing with it is that not only did he get a great crop of his potatoes, but the next crop that he planted in the same paddock was canola, and his canola in that paddock compared to the paddock next door where he didn't spray Seaperia, he didn't spray the canola at all, but the canola in that paddock was a foot higher than the other canola.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just that effect of it's that ongoing effect that seaweed has, and it does build your soil. The more that you use it, it builds your soil. And that's obviously what it did, just in 2 sprays on a crop of potatoes.
Yeah. Amazing.
So there's that. I do have lots of funny stories about animals because, animals are funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But animals do love seaweed. They love the seaweed itself, but they also love plants that have been sprayed with seaweed. And it's because seaweed increases the sugar level in leaves.
Okay.
And of course, animals are no different to us. They like sugar. They like, a nice sweet blade of grass compared to an ordinary old blade of grass.
Yeah, true.
They'll go for the sweet one. And I've had a few instances. I had a lady a couple of years ago who rang me. She had planted, they had a sheep property. She was in southern Queensland somewhere. She had a sheep property. She rang me because they had planted a citrus orchard. So when they planted all the trees, they made sure that they sprayed them with Seaperia because it helped with transplanting and actually, getting trees started. Really great for that. So they did that, and she was diligently, giving them a spray every couple of weeks to get them started. Her trees were going really well. They went away for a holiday for a week or so. When they came back, their sheep had pushed down the fence between the paddock where they were and the one where the citrus orchard was. And they hadn't actually eaten the trees. They'd eaten all the grass around every tree.
Yeah, okay.
And that was just from, what was dripping off the trees onto the grass below. Animals, they do love it. Grahame did a trial with a farmer a few years back. It was on a dairy farm over near Ravenshoe. They went out into the middle of this paddock. They pegged out a square. They sprayed it with seaweed. And they went back, I don't know, a week or two later, when the cows had been through that paddock and they had eaten this square where the Seaperia was sprayed. They'd eaten it right down to the absolute ground. Like Dad said, you could see the exact square pretty much where they sprayed.
Right.
So, but it's the same with even like the meal there's stories of, we've had dairy farmers tell us that the cows broke into the bales and got into bags, just 8 bags of seaweed. And there was a lady a while back who her order had arrived at her place. She just ordered online kilo of Seaperia meal for her dog. postman beat her home. The dog had got hold of the parcel, ripped open the parcel, ripped open the bag of Seaperia, and had eaten half of the bag by the time she got home.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
obviously the dog, was really lacking in some minerals or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that's the kind of thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thirsty dog at the other end of that.
Yeah, thirsty and really expensive poos for a couple of days. But it will never ever hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing with our products is that every product is pure seaweed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every product is just pure seaweed. It has no additives. It has nothing
Yeah.
at all added.
Yeah.
And so it's perfectly safe for anything and everything. Grahame a while back drew a cartoon of a farmer having a bath in a bath of Seaperia. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
soluble.
Yeah.
And he made this little cartoon out of it. And, like it just, you could have a bath in it. It would probably be really good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had that email from Tim a few days back. He's that commercial protea grower
Okay. Okay.
down in New South Wales. And
Yeah.
he said that one of the things he loves about it is that when he's spraying his plants, which he does from a ATV with a sprayer on the back, and he said, if the wind blows a bit and it goes all over him, he doesn't even
Yeah.
care, and it's probably doing him good.
Yep. 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 If you
Yeah.
do that with a chemical, you can expect neurological
Oh,
problems, skin
nasty.
problems,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
all the way through the major chronic diseases. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
huge.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So yeah, it's interesting some of the funny stories and how nature, finds its way into it, like the animals, and they can sense what's good and get stuck into it. There's a clue right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Animals do know they know what they need.
yeah,
Yeah.
and and so important too that we focus on products these days that don't have a lot of numbers, preservatives. I have a little saying that if you put a preservative into something to extend the shelf life, that will shorten your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Natural flavors. Natural flavors. When you look at the ingredients, natural flavors can be anything,
Yeah.
and that's fully allowed now. So
Yeah.
if there's something that the manufacturer doesn't want you to know about, we'll just put it under the natural flavor banner and send it on its way.
Yeah.
So it's yeah,
Yeah.
that results in these. Sorry.
Ingredients is a real, the ingredients that they show in food, it's a real issue because there just isn't enough transparency about what really is in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that's why, just stick to whole foods, and you can't go wrong.
Yep, come back to simplicity. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, it all ties in, like nutrition. It's so important, but people are sort of looking in the wrong areas, and a lot of times the answer's in front of us, but we don't see it, or we think it can't be that easy. Yeah, do you find that sort of thing with customers? You're telling me,
Yeah,
okay, well, all I need to do is take some seaweed, and most of my
yeah,
nutrition is sorted.
yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I've really seen lately is with dog dental health. So Seaperia meal, we sell a lot to dog owners.
Yep.
And the reason that people buy it is because it keeps their dog's teeth clean and healthy, and it stops them having to take their dog to the vet to get all the plaque removed from their teeth before, all their teeth go bad and they have to have teeth removed. So,
Yeah. That's a good.
which costs people a fortune,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
crazy amounts of money. So the thing that stands out to me at the moment is the amount of dog dental products that there are on the market,
Okay.
and how most of the things that are on the market are, they have ingredients.
Yep.
They have all these added things, and it's just this thing, and I don't know why we do it, but for some reason we humans think we can improve on nature. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to make this dog dental product, and I'm going to use seaweed meal, but I'm going to add a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that. And, instance, one of the things that they add is probiotics. Now, probiotics are just bacteria that your dog has in its gut. It's the same thing with us. Your dog doesn't need probiotics unless your dog has recently had an operation, had antibiotics, has been sick, has actual gut issues or something really going on. Your dog doesn't need probiotics. You just need to look after the ones that it's got.
Yep.
And then, they add kind of nice things like mint, um, which is just it's just something that they chuck in there just because we associate mint with fresh breath. So okay, let's put some mint in there. Um,
Yep. Yep.
and then there's some really nasty things that they put in as well. That that people don't know what they are, and unless they actually go searching and really look up what is this stuff and should I be giving it to my dog,
Mm.
there's things that just are really not good for your dog. And when it comes down to it, you don't need the ingredients, you just need the seaweed meal. The seaweed meal is what's doing the work. You look at all of these other products, and they'll call it Ascophyllum nodosum, or they'll call it brown algae or brown kelp or Ascophyllum extract, or
Okay.
all of those things. They're all the same thing. It is Ascophyllum nodosum, and that is what does the job. And you don't need anything else in there. You just need
Yep.
the whole food seaweed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Every time, it doesn't matter if it's an animal or a human, every time we eat, that's probiotics. So that's,
Yep.
it very much depends on what we eat as to what bacteria is ruling the roost, so to speak. So there's a mix of everything in there, but if we want the good ones to flourish and the bad ones to sit there dormant, well, we need to be making sure that we're, like you say, you're putting the right things in.
Eating
It's
the right things and feeding the right ones. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And then obviously your little dogs, they're happy. They don't have breath problems, and yeah,
No,
they're
I
cruising
never
along.
have. And of course, they've had seaweed since they were pups. So I don't really have, like, I haven't seen any change. I don't really have anything to compare
Yeah,
to, because they're both healthy as they've both got perfectly clean teeth. They've never been to the vet,
yep.
for teeth cleans or Lili had to go to the vet a couple of years ago and have some teeth removed because she had a little scrap in the chook pen with a scrub turkey.
Oh, okay.
So, and he got her in the mouth, and she had a couple of loose teeth and she had to go and have them out. But
Yeah, okay.
and they did clean her teeth at the time, but the vet said she really didn't need it. It was, her teeth were fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so good. Um, so yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything else that's you'd like to share at this point in time, or
Um, I guess, I don't know. I guess just that, we talking about our company, we're just a little family company. Like you can tell from this podcast, we're not,
yeah,
we're not
yeah,
anything
yeah,
fancy. I'm just sitting here in my little corner where I do all my work and
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and we're just a family company doing our best to help people be as healthy as they can and help people help their animals and grow great food. Um, and so, yeah, so that's why we are really out there. We don't hide behind our website. We've got our photos and, we're all over the website. We're all over our Facebook page. We're on this podcast right now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
anyone can get in touch with us anytime. You can ring us. You can ring Grahame if you have a spare hour or two to spare to talk about, about seaweed. He's always up for it.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
But his phone number's on the website. You can ring him anytime and ask him anything, and he will answer any question about seaweed. He just has seen so much and done so much and has talked to so many people. And
yeah,
yeah, he just there. I don't know, but I'm I'm sure there is no one in Australia who has the experience that he has,
mm,
and the depth of knowledge that he has,
yeah,
with seaweed for agriculture and for animals, and also for human health as well.
mm-hmm,
We're very lucky to. So Grahame was the one who actually found Seagreens when we went on our global search trying to find um, a human nutritional seaweed brand that we wanted to sell.
yep,
So Grahame was the one that found them, and I'm just so thankful that he did, because they are a fantastic company to work with.
yeah,
They're another little family company, just plugging away, doing their best to get as many people healthy as they can. And
yeah,
that's so Simon Ranger is the founder, and Simon, that's his thing. He is on a mission to get a quarter of a teaspoon of seaweed into everyone's diet every day.
mm,
And
yeah, so
that
good.
just doing that tiny thing, just that little difference, would make a huge difference you know, to our population, to our country, to our society, to have healthy people. There just is nothing. There is nothing that's worth more than your health. If you don't
Correct.
have your health, you don't have anything.
Yep, correct. Yeah, and yeah, like you say, it's just small little doses every day. You don't need to base your whole eating plan or diet around
Yeah,
consuming mass amounts of
yeah.
seaweed. It's
You
just
don't eat plates of seaweed. You
tiny.
just
Yeah,
quarter of a teaspoon a day. That is how that's just how packed with nutrition it is. And it's the same whether you're talking about our Seagreens products, or whether you're talking about Seaperia soluble for plants for your garden, or whether you're talking about Seaperia meal for your animals.
yep,
It's always the same thing. A tiny little bit makes a big difference.
mm, yep,
Um,
absolutely. That's what
yeah,
I found. Just yeah, a little bit every day, as per the instructions, and their
yeah,
nails come back good. Hair always grew quick, but it's growing even quicker now.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
that tells you that hey, if those things weren't happening, or if those things well, because they're happening, the body's getting what it needs.
That's
Like
right.
the extra nails and the hair and all that wouldn't change if the body was in scarcity and and didn't have the basics to operate properly, these are all things that
Exactly
happen
right.
once the body's got what it needs.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And and I guess the thing with that is that when it comes to our health, we can only we can only judge by the bit we can see. You know,
Mm.
we can't see the inside of our body. We can't see what's going on.
Yep.
So we're judging our health by those sort of things, and how we feel and whether we have energy. You know, whether we get up every day feeling great and ready to take on the world, or whether we kind of drag ourselves out of bed and, you know, sit there and have a cup of coffee and think about, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Which is
it's that is the difference. And there is no reason why everyone shouldn't get up every day feeling great and um yeah, ready to go.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Grahame still does. He's 87 years old, and that's him in a nutshell. You know, he bloody wears me out sometimes, I tell
Yeah.
you. He's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
he's just amazing. But of course he's had seaweed for a long, long time. And it's that consistency.
Yeah.
And you do feel it, you do notice it. And there's things that you feel after a year or after 2 years. You
Yeah.
know, all of a sudden you look back and you go, hang on, I actually do, you know, I actually do have more energy. Hang on, I couldn't actually run up this hill a
Mhm.
couple of years ago, and now I can run all the way from the causeway down at the bottom up to the front gate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. That
so that's it. You got to
that
get into
obviously means something. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even yeah, a lot of people, they'll have pains of some sort and the pain will disappear, but it just disappears and they don't recognize that it's disappeared.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's not until you ask about it later on, oh, hey, how you going with this or that? And oh, well, actually, it's not there anymore. Oh, yeah. So it's
And
yeah,
I guess I'd never really thought about that, but I guess that's something that's interesting in your job is to actually remind people like that,
mm,
because you're right. Sometimes it's a gradual change and you don't really notice.
mm-hmm.
And to have someone like you to actually say, "Hey, how's such and such going?" and you go, "Oh, hang on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
it's
get that all
going
the time.
really well."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It happens all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, does it?
start
Yeah,
off, and I'm really worried about this. I'm really worried about that, and 3 months process, and it's like, how's that feel now? And uh, hang on, yeah, it's not a thing anymore. It's like,
yeah,
hey, we've done our job,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. That's great.
but yeah, it's so
Very
many.
rewarding, very rewarding job.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have, and I have, because I mean, I get, you know,
mm,
emails and phone calls all the time and little messages on our Facebook page. And
yeah,
yeah, it's just great. I mean, that's what makes it great. And
yeah,
we do, you know, we do have so we have the domestic side to our company, but we also have the bulk side to our company. So we supply a lot of seaweed to a lot of different companies, particularly fertilizer and also dog food, dog treat, animal supplement um, companies. But
yeah,
the thing that, you know, the part of the business that I do really enjoy is the people part, and not particularly dealing with the companies. And I've even had companies, like big companies, in the past that I've refused to deal with. I've
mm-hmm.
given them, you know, someone else's, go and see this person,
Yep, yep,
because I just don't want
yeah,
to,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I
yeah,
just don't want their bullshit, really.
yep,
Just
yep,
want to
yeah,
enjoy what we do and keep my dad's legacy going.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're coming from a place of service rather than a corporate standing, whereas
Yeah.
the corporate standing is more of a shareholder return
Yeah.
focus. Yeah,
Yeah,
profit
that's it.
return. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, that's the first flag, is that straight away they're onto you about price. And as soon as they do that, then it's all over Red Rover. I don't want to know about
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Go
Yeah.
and screw someone else
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
price.
Yep.
Like
And
we
they did.
already have, our price is what it is. We're not here to make $1 million. We just want to make a living, make a good living like anyone else does, and get some good products out there for people at the right price.
Mm. Yeah. So when you look back on your life, you can honestly say, yeah, I've done the right thing. I've tried to help
Yeah.
people as best I can.
Yeah.
For people that are looking for answers, and especially you guys, anyone comes in with an open mindset, they're going to get a lot of information, a lot of learning and
Yeah.
understanding from you guys.
Yeah.
So that's what you guys are offering as well. It's not just a product; it's the education around it, and then you give that education to someone else, and then their knowledge field expands, and they
And
teach
they
anyone
pass
else.
it on.
Yeah, they teach anyone else that they rub shoulders with, and
Yeah.
this is how you change the world. This is
And
how we
that's
build the
that's
world that we
right.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is how we change the world. That is what you and I are both doing, aren't we?
yeah, yeah.
Hopefully
Kind. Yeah.
changing the world for the better,
Mm.
doing our
Yep.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
very important. Very important. Um, yeah. If you're happy with that, Liz, yeah, we might sign off and give people
Yeah.
a chance to that have watched this far to go through and have a think about how to comply to their own lives and their gardens or their farm or themselves personally, the animals.
Yeah.
And yeah, reach out to Liz, reach out to Grahame, and ask the questions. Like they said, they're open all the time. It's all over their website. They're open to conversations. They're open to sharing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We
please.
are open all the time, weekends, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
We're on dairy farm all the time. We just
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
too committed.
it's just like I said, it's just out in our DNA. It's just what we are, and it's just what we do. And
Yeah,
there's no on and off switch.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
So
Brad. Thanks heaps.
yeah, thanks, Liz. Thanks very much for sharing your knowledge and experience today. And yeah, always look forward to working closer and sharing the word around.
Yeah. Yeah. We will do this again.
Yeah, cheers. Have a good day,
Okay.
everybody. Enjoy.
See you again. For instance.